Hi friends, editing Sara here. So I'm going to split the podcast episode discussion into two parts. This week you will get our discussion of our general thoughts and the summary, and us talking about the characters we know. And then part 2 will come out in 2 weeks. You will hear us talk about the new people, the peacekeepers, and the chair and all of that. Both episodes are covering both episodes of the show, but split into 2 parts of the discussion.
Everybody this could often be a shit show, so
that's our middle name. Muppets Shit Show and Trauma.
Woo. Hi, friends.
Hello, Poppets.
Howdy, y'all.
Hey, everyone.
And welcome to Muppet Sex and Trauma. I'm Sara Ezzat. I make costume Codex videos on YouTube.
I'm Jack Kramme, editor / right-hand man for Passion of the Nerd and editor for Chipperish Media.
I'm Josh Gosdin, and I'm just a big old nerd.
And that's enough. And today we have a very special guest. You want to introduce yourself, Lani?
Sure. My name is Lani Dian Rich. I'm owner of Chipperish Media and very excited to be here discussing Farscape with you guys. Thank you so much for having me here.
Welcome.
Yay. You've heard us talk about Lani many times, folks. She is the story guru, the story expert. So today we are going to talk about 2 episodes because it's really one story. We're going to talk about Nerve and the Hidden Memory. Nerve was written by Richard Manning and directed by Rowan Woods. The Hidden Memory was written by Justin Monjo and directed by Ian Watson. All of them are returning writers or directors. Something is wrong with Aeryn. The stab wound she received last episode has damaged her peripheral nerve, something which does not heal on its own, and she needs a donor. Crichton decides to mount a mission to the nearby Peacekeeper base. The rest of the crew think it's a suicide mission, but there is no arguing with John. Gianna offers to go along. She managed to purloin the late Captain Larac's ident chip. So identity theft it is then. And at first it appears to be working. Gianna sets about distracting the security staff, while John puts on his PK Butch act. Then there is an obstacle.
Genetic verification required.
He should fail this. The game should be up, but it isn't. It seems they have a friend here, an old friend. In fact, an old flame.
Jelena.
Who John met on the wreck of the Zelbinium, has been reassigned. And it seems their troubles should be over. Jelena can get a magic syringe of nerve-fixing stuff. Okay, now time to try and leave the base. Enter Scorpius. A brand new baddie with an outfit out of someone's naughty closet and a face like a Hammer horror villain. And he's more observant than your average bear, and...
He is an imposter. Seize him.
And soon John finds himself strapped to a very not comfy chair indeed. Luckily, he stashed the magic syringe before he got nabbed. And it's a good thing, because on Moya, Aeryn is deteriorating, despite everything that Zahn and Dargo try to do for her. And John's not doing great either. In the chair, he's having his brain played with by Scorpius and Peacekeeper Fetish Barbie. It's the world's most painful clip show, as Scorpius learns almost everything about John's time in the Uncharted Territories, and about Krace. While playing in John's brain, Scorpius uncovers a hidden memory. Placed in John's mind by the ancients from a human reaction, it's a memory of wormhole data. Unfortunately, wormholes happen to be Scorpi's special interest, and he wants to know more. He decides to send for Krace, which gives John a short respite from the chair. Thrown in a cell, he meets a somewhat unhinged, masked man.
My side, your side, my side, your side, my side, your side!
Jelena outdoes herself as the Swiss Army girlfriend, as she manages to connect with Chiana and find a way to communicate with John in his cell. He tells her where the syringe is, and to send Chiana off with it. Jelena and Chiana are able to pull this off, creating a blind spot in the sensors for Chiana to fly through. Chiana gets to Moya with the syringe just in time to save Aeryn. So Aeryn is healed, but John is in trouble. Oh, and Moya is in labor. The magic syringe works damn quick, and now, in Aeryn's mind, it's time for a rescue. Dargo and Zahn mount up because...
If you can be an idiot, I can be an idiot.
In his cell, John is getting to know his cellmate, Stark, who is not quite as mad as he first appears. On Moya, Rigel, Pilot, and Chiana are trying to figure out how to midwife a Leviathan. Apparently, there isn't a spaceship division of Nanata's house. Back on the base, Jelena is proving herself a rock star once again. She hacks the chair to give John a desperately needed break. She tells him to think of their kiss, even though that's the one thing he's managing to keep hidden. But when he does, we get a little bit of fan fiction playing for Scorpy. A vision of John and Crace conspiring about wormholes. Guess it's time for the world's most horrible game of musical chairs. And whose turn is it now? Above the base on the surface of the moon, Zahn and Dargo are planting explosives while Aeryn finds her way into the base and meets up with Jelena. The girls work together to rescue their damseled man and his new buddy.
The radiant Aeryn's son.
But now Jelena isn't sure she should come along. She's getting that gooseberry feeling, but they absolutely have to get John out of here. And it seems they need an officer's identship. Aeryn goes in search of one, and she finds a distressed Crace, abandoned and helpless, in the chair. He tries to win her back to the Peacekeeper cause, offers her everything she's lost. But Aeryn has been doing some thinking.
Everything I lost isn't worth a damn. And I don't want to go back to your path.
And she leaves him there, in the chair, with the settings on full. Jelena has also been doing some thinking, and she's decided to take her chances and stay. Meanwhile, on Call the Midwife Uncharted Territories edition, things are progressing with Moya's labor, but something is not right about the baby. And Moya isn't made for a delivery like this. Chiana steps up to assist. On the base, John, Aeryn, and Stark have made it to the surface, and into a firefight. Everyone makes it out safely except for Jelena, who's changed her mind once again, and at the last minute provides a distraction that saves John, but at a cost. She does make it back to Moya, but only for a final farewell. Everyone else is safe and sound.
What about Moya's child?
Well, he's a bonny boy. He's also a gunship. So that's new.
What kind of a beast is he?
So, Lani Dian Rich, tell us,
Yes.
What's the definition of a game changer?
Oh boy, I'm so glad that you asked me this, because actually this episode has kind of helped me sort of rethink how I feel about cliffhangers versus game changers. But here's the thing. The basic definition is that when you're looking at a cliffhanger, the central conflict has not been resolved. We don't know our characters are in some kind of peril, and we don't know how everything is going to end. And we're just kind of left with see you next time. This is sort of a cheap ploy to get butts in the seats for the next episode, issue, or whatever. Although, one that goes back to like Charles Dickens and whatnot, and typically not a big fan. Game changers are when the central narrative conflict of the story that you're telling has been resolved, but in the process of resolving that, the world has changed so fundamentally that we don't know what it's going to look like the next time we come back to be with these characters. So game changer, as far as storytelling goes, is usually a better choice. But I was thinking about how like I always, and for anybody who's familiar with me at all, I always come down like cliffhangers are stupid. I don't like them, yada, yada, yada. But I've kind of come to this sort of like middle space with that, in that if you have a story in which, we're ending on a cliffhanger, but then we've got the next episode coming up in a reasonable period of time, in a week for a TV series, in a month for a comic book series or something like that. I think it's forgivable, within a particular story. What I don't like is when a cliffhanger, like, you get dropped on a cliffhanger and then you've got to, wait a year or 2 or 3 for a novel or for the other movie to come out. Or, if you've got to wait an extended period of time in order to get that resolved, I think that's a really, really cheap ploy. But anyway, so I was answering a question you didn't ask me, and that this episode made me kind of sort of resolve my feelings on cliffhangers, like when it's not so bad and when it's absolutely just a cheap ploy. But while I say that, though, I would say that this episode does resolve the conflict of the first episode, which is Aeryn's going to die. Let's make Aeryn not die. Right. And then at the end, we have resolved that. So while we close on a freeze of Crichton's face in pain as he is in great suffering, I am not sure that I would necessarily call that. I mean, it's cliffhanger-esque, but as far as the sins of cliffhangers go, I think this one gets a pretty pass.
And we do change a lot about our world in these two episodes.
Yes.
So everybody, how do you feel about this episode?
Holy hell, this one is a hell of a ride. There's so much going on. It's really fun. There's some great action, and I feel complicated about some of the Jelena stuff, but we'll get into that. Josh, what about you, sir?
I just had a blast with these two episodes, like top to bottom, start to finish. And it seemed to me that everybody else who was involved in making it did too. And I know that's always such an abstract thing to kind of try to predict, but I don't know. I feel like it always bleeds through the screen whenever the people who are making it are having fun while they're doing it. And it definitely felt like, and especially in the way that it tied together all of the first season narrative threads to this point, that this is what the whole first season has been building to up until this point. And I really felt, you know, like Lani, like you were saying, like there's like a where do we go from here kind of a sensation at the end of it, but I also felt satisfied. Lani?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm next. Okay. You know, what's funny is that I've had a number of people telling me to watch Farscape for years and years and years. And it wasn't until 3 of my favorite thinkers about stories put together, Muppet Sex and Trauma, that I actually started watching it. And the thing is that some of you may have heard, I'm going to announce today, I don't like Muppets. I have a thing with Muppets. They irritate me. They give me the creeps. I don't know why. I haven't gone to therapy about it. I got a lot of other things that are in the queue ahead of that. But so all of this kind of kept me from going into Farscape. Then you guys started this, and I love the way all of you talk about stories. So I've been kind of following along, and I started watching. And at first I was like, and then I got to these 2 episodes. And when we got to these 2 episodes, it was like a fuel injection. I was like, okay, now I know what this is. Now I understand where we're going. We have this really wonderful antagonist swap, which I enjoyed immensely. Craze was not doing for me. I like him on certain levels, but not as a main antagonist. It gave it such clear focus as to what it was exactly that we were doing. And it feels like it just goes from there. And I will say, I watched ahead. I was keeping up with you guys for a while. Then I started going ahead. Then I hit this, and I was already like in the middle of season 2 when you finally grabbed me for this. And so,
oh wow,
definitely, I'm enjoying it a great deal. And there was some interesting stuff up until now, but this is the episode that made me really lock in.
Yeah, me too. I love this episode. It feels like the actual inciting incident for the entire rest of the series.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, and I don't know how much. I can't say a lot without sort of spoil it, but yes, I love and from the minute Scorpius walks into the scene in his fetish gear outfit, which literally was from a gimp suit bought in a sex shop.
Those tails.
They probably went to King's Cross in Sydney and just grabbed a BDSM outfit.
Yeah, and they adapted it. They literally did. They and they invented this stuff called new skin to give him that facial texture. Oh God, as a character design, it's just awesome.
I love Scorpius so freaking much. He looks like he's walked straight off of the set of Hellraiser. Yes. Hellraiser is a franchise from the 80s that I freaking love. And he's just so like, he's as a horror fan, he ticks all of the freaking boxes. Like the design, his performance, even like his voice, like he's terrifying. I freaking love him. He's great.
He never raises his voice. He's always just like,
yeah.
So why don't you have a seat in my chair?
Yeah. It's so like, he's creepy, and he sort of reminds me of like a Buffy villain or something.
The actor's name is Wayne Pygram, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I had seen pictures of Scorpius in promotional material, so I kind of knew someone was coming. I didn't know who, what, how, why, but I do get the feeling that he's going to become semi-regular, and I'm curious to see how that's going to happen, because I like him. He's cool.
So, this is a lot to go through. So we're going to start with the cold open and the setup of Aeryn's damaged nerve. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Larac hit a nerve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, literally, quite literally. Once again, it's another episode that just doesn't mess around and just goes boom straight into the point. And that's something I really appreciate. I feel like sometimes, particularly in TV series, you wait like 10, 15 minutes for things to actually get going. But this one just boom, here we go. And I remember feeling like genuine shock when the blood spurts out of Aaron's mouth. I'm like, whoa, shit, like that escalated quickly.
Tissue.
What the hell?
Like that's not just blood.
Like,
that was like viscera. Yeah.
It looked like strawberry jam or something. It was quite disgusting, but yeah, I don't know. I'm
a little hungry.
And I feel you, brother. I feel you. I haven't eaten yet. I should have had breakfast. I'm pretty sure it was.
Keep a tally of how many times Jack mentions food.
God damn it.
So one of my recurring gripes of the show has been the inciting incident in the first 8 seconds of the cold open of each show, not making any damn sense or coming from anywhere. Luxon Hyper Rage was the one that stuck in my craw for so freaking long. But this cold open and this inciting incident leading directly from last episode was way more engrossing and enrapturing and satisfying. And and they tend to do this in the show, which I really appreciate. Of like, hey, in the first minute or so of the episode, they're like, hey, how are you feeling from the events of last episode? Having a consequence that sets up the plot of this one was very well done, in my opinion. So yeah, same. Like while she was boxing, I thought we were going to get some emotional catharsis, but no, she just like expectorated all over the thing.
Yeah,
and tried to do her usual, no, it's fine, John, and brush it off and stuff. But the whole crew at this point is like ride or die for each other, and I love where it went from there.
Yeah, I love that John just immediately is like, no, we're gonna fix this. Like you are not freaking dying. Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, it's a nice use of the movement from the previous episode, because we have Lorac's ident chip as well, of course, which Chiana stole, and we saw her messing around with her sleight of hand in the previous episode. So we also have Aeryn, who knows exactly what's happening to her. So like we don't have to waste any time doing setup. We're riding the momentum of the previous episode and borrowing from that. It's a story efficiency. That I think like, yeah, Josh, I've noticed it too in Farscape about how we like always start with action rolling. And I'm not necessarily averse to that, but when there's so much that's like not really explained and you don't know what's happening, it does tend to feel like a bit of a rough start.
Yeah.
But here we have all of these pieces that are just borrowed from the previous episode. We've already set this up. It has served more than one purpose because all of these things served a purpose in the previous episode. So we're utilizing that momentum and getting such incredible story efficiency here. I really appreciated that. I thought it was pretty cool.
I don't find A Bug's Life to be the most fantastic episode, but it does a great job of setting up everything we need for this one. Just reminding us where everybody's been, and then leaving all these seeds that blossom immediately. And I really love the scene where John is trying to convince everyone. And particularly unexpectedly, Rigel being like, we have to do everything. Just in response to John just being a raw nerve.
Yeah.
I also really like the blocking in that scene where John he's it's that shoulder to shoulder thing again. Only now he's standing shoulder to shoulder with everybody. And so he's not actually facing it. I don't know how many of y'all do this in your personal lives where you don't look at people when you talk to them. But TV characters do it frequently, and it's very effective apparently. But it worked really well in the scene because it, and again, maybe I'm reading too much into what they've been doing all season, but like John always standing shoulder to shoulder with Aeryn, to me has always grounded them and made them equals. had been this very unspoken, unconditional support. And so him doing it with the rest of the crew is kind of like him bringing all of them along, into this relationship that he and Aeryn have cultivated.
Lani, I know you don't like Rigel.
Oh, yeah. No.
No. Really?
Called her out.
I think it's perfectly valid to not like Rigel.
I don't know if it's because of Rigel or if it's because of this deep-seated whatever I have with Muppets from childhood. Like, I honestly don't know what it is. I hate them. I hate Kermit. I hate Piggy. I like Animal. I can put up with that. And I love, of course, Muppet Angel from that episode of Angel. That's all great. Yeah. Some of them get a pass from me. Some of them don't. Rigel. And the thing is that like I like Rigel kind of conceptually as a character, that he's the jerk who is just out for himself and he's very selfish, all of that kind of stuff. Like, I like having that character on there. He is a great like source of conflict while being genuine to his own motivations and what he wants. Also, it's really, really fun in those occasions in which he steps up and is actually an honorable dude, right? But overall, like the helium farting and the grossness and the dribbling and the eating all the time and the just floating around and being a creepy space bug, like all of that, not to mention being like a sexual creeper, which we will get to later in this episode. So all of those things, like I totally get and respect why people who love Rigel, like y'all love Rigel. Like, I get it. It's just not a flavor for me. And that's all I don't know.
Yeah,
that is totally valid.
As soon as Sarah, as soon as you mentioned there that Lani doesn't like Rigel, I knew it was going to be for all the reasons then I love him. And that's okay. That is
okay.
Totally, minus the sexual perviness, of course, but I love the helium farts. I love the pissing fire. I just love it all.
God, I forgot about
hilarious.
Pissing fire.
And it's so stupid and it's dumb and I love it. I freaking love it.
I think that's great. And my whole thing is that when I don't like somebody, I love being around people who love them, because like love them enough for both of us, and I'll do the reverse too. There are lots of things that I love that are not popular, that are not chosen by a lot of people. I think I'm on the unpopular side of this equation. But I will love the things that I love enough for all the people who hate it. And so when I hate something and I'm around people who love it, it makes me feel so much less guilty for just hating it. I always feel bad when I hate things. I don't like that energy of like, hey, that sucks. I will just say that like, I cannot exactly say why I hate Rigel so much, but I feel like it's deeply rooted in childhood, and I'll bring it to my therapist eventually.
Third, fourth, or eighth on the list. Yeah.
I think the Rigel is one in which all opinions are valid. It'd be different if you didn't like Aeryn, we would be very confused. But
oh no, we're gonna have that discussion. I love my girl. No.
But all opinions are valid on Rigel, because he is a complicated and yet entirely simple character.
Yeah.
But I don't know, sort of love to hate him a lot. Mm-hmm. But I really love this moment where he appears to be his usual selfish bastard self, but then he does show empathy. He does turn around and say, we should do everything. Even when even Dargo, my big sweet himbo boy, is struggling to like, he wants to give her honorable, but he wants to do the honorable thing and make sure that Aeryn is cared for. But he also sees that John is deeply stupid with this plan. But sometimes you have to be stupid anyway. So
Speaking of Dargo, I would like to formally rescind and apologize for all the smack that I've talked about him, especially earlier on. This episode, I love him showing this softer side, a more caring side, and he shows like some genuine concern for not only Aeryn's well-being, but her wishes as well. And I love that he's the first one to suggest that Moya has the ability to filter the toxins in Aeryn's system. I love that came from him. And I underestimated Dargo, and I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry.
Dargo forgives you.
I don't think it's a matter of it. I think it took them a while to live into this character, to write the character. And like I always knew that this big sweetheart was coming.
Yeah. I just have a strong personal distaste for bravado and like tough guy crap. I just hate it. Yeah.
There.
Then John gets an idea.
Yes, John gets an idea, and Chiana actually figures out how to make it happen, because I don't know what John was planning.
John was literally planning to like bluff his way in the entire time. Like from again another reference later. That was the plan. Walking real fast was the plan.
Yeah, it was kind of reckless and not. There was no thing involved. It's like, yeah, we'll just go in, we'll just wing it, we'll just get it done. Like, no, buddy, no, that's not what's going to happen.
I feel like the writers are doing a really good job with adapting to the fact that they decided at the last minute to keep Chiana, but they're also doing it by sort of just like basketball tossing her into every plot that they can. To the point where the other characters are confused about why Chiana is doing things, and she's like, well, why wouldn't I? And us in the audience are expected to be like, good point. So she's like, I'm going with you, John. And John was like, why? And Chiana was like, why wouldn't I? John was like, good point.
Oh, you didn't think that maybe she was going to double cross and stay with the security guy?
No.
I didn't think that.
Because they were telegraphing that, and Farscape has fooled me far too many times.
Fair.
I mean, that would have been a subversive move, but no, I didn't think for a second that was going to happen. But I loved how she was sort of the femme fatale of this episode, and how she essentially used her sexuality to manipulate the shit out of the peacekeepers, and I love that. Like, you go, girl.
If you want to see how much Jack enjoyed that, you should really join our Patreon so you can see. The live watch.
I was very distracted, okay? And that's what she was going for. Okay? She was distracting and I was distracted, and
it's a good moment to pitch that we did record us watching both of these episodes. And you can in fact watch that if you go and join the Patreon. And Jack Jack enjoyed Chiana very much.
I did, yes, Sarah. That is correct. Yes.
Hey, you're only human, man.
Exactly, right?
I think we all enjoyed Chiana in this. I love how we had so much badassery in the women in this episode. You see a lot of that as we move through it. I loved that Chiana was like, yeah, you need an ident. I got an ident. Of course I got an ident. Why wouldn't I have one? There was somebody with an ident on the ship. Of course I was going to take it from them. And that to me, again, using that momentum from the last episode, and you get her just right there, getting all of the things that he needs so that his plan is 0.8% less reckless, right?
Sure. Likelihood of success.
Yeah. So the only reason why John, let's face it, the only reason why John survived any of this is because of the women. Is because the women came in and cleaned up his mess one broomful at a time. It was pretty awesome.
With a little small assist from Dargo. Everybody else who was active in this was women.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. In previous episodes, I've talked about how I was getting a little sick of John just action hero saving the day every single time, and I'm glad that wasn't what happened here. In fact, he got rescued.
He was damseled for a good chunk of it. He was damseled.
It's funny, the damseling, because at first they damseled Aeryn, but then it does a complete reversal. So does that cancel it out? I'm confused.
Sorry, you mentioned this while we were watching it. Like you pointed out, that phenomenon, and for me, it in this story, because there was balance, Aeryn wasn't a damsel.
No.
And and if we add this to the tick mark board, that I have just off screen here of all the times that Aeryn has been damseled, then sure, this is yet another example. But in all of those most of those other stories, Aeryn is a character MacGuffin that the other characters have to rally around and rescue, and she becomes the reason for them to come together, and she becomes a device more than a character. That's what I think was making it stand out so much for me when she was being damseled. In this pair of episodes, Aeryn and John are balanced. John goes off to rescue Aeryn, and then Aeryn is like, well, fuck this shit, and then goes off to rescue John with her Ellen Ripley gun, flies off into the whole thing. And at the end, they are shoulder to shoulder, blasting their way out as they're going back, and so they aren't devices in this episode. Neither of them are. And I love it.
Yeah, it's really with damselling. I think that it's one of those things that are like, we think of it as damselling whenever anybody is in danger or needs to be rescued, especially if that person is a woman. We've gotten a little sensitive to it because that damselling does happen kind of a lot culturally in our storytelling. However, I think that when a person is constantly put in danger without any of their own agency, they cannot possibly be a party to their own rescue. That's when we have a damseling situation. It's just less interesting as a storytelling device. And because it happens to women a lot, we tend to be very sensitive when it happens to women because we've seen that a lot. And even when I say John is damseled here, I don't really think that he is. He's absolutely has agency in his own rescue. He's suppressing the memories. He's doing all this stuff. Like, he is absolutely playing a part in his rescue. Aeryn is unable to play a part in her rescue, but her agency is present. And as a matter of fact, she gets the shot, and like 30 seconds later, she's like, all right, let's go on the ship. We're getting this thing, So I would say that I think that damseling is not kind of a black or white issue. There's definitely areas of gray in there. And while, I'll joke about John being damseled, I don't think that he was. I don't think that Aeryn was. I don't think anybody was really damseled. I think we'll have a discussion about Jelena a little bit later. But even that, I don't think that anybody's really, truly damseled in the way that is narratively questionable, like in these episodes. I think we're pretty good.
I also think that John's loss of agency is a plot, matters to the plot. Often when it's damseling badly, it's just for plot reasons. It's just an object. There's no subjectivity to the loss of agency. But John's loss of agency in this is one of the things that makes this situation so torturous.
Yes. And we don't decenter John. That's the thing too, is that the damsel is always decentered. We put her in danger so that our hero can come and bust in and save the day, and here we don't decenter Aeryn. We don't decenter John. We know exactly why we're doing all of this. And it is sourced in the love that these characters have for each other and in who they are as people anyway. So I think that we are fairly safely out of damseling territory here.
Agreed.
Yeah, because even when Aeryn was sick, she still had a strength about her. She wasn't reduced to just a poor sick woman that needs help. She was still her, and she still had a strength and a resolve about her. So yeah, it definitely didn't fit the typical damseling archetype, I guess.
Yeah.
And we also got subjectivity on her experience of losing that control to illness. We took the time to see that and to see how it was, just how hard that was for her, and that is a real human experience.
Her illness was about her.
Yes.
My hatred of a hole in the wall at Angel is a discussion we'll have to have sometime, because in that case it's not about her. It's got to be about the feelings of the person who is experiencing the thing. You have to take time for that, and they do with Aeryn here. And the whole question of whether she wants to die alone.
So I'm looking forward to the Angel podcast that we're all going to form after this.
I have a gripe in general, just with in media, any character, whatever, the whole no, I'm strong and tough and I don't need help from anyone. Let me die alone. It just, that kind of bravado just annoys me. And so there was a bit of it here, but it's fitting. It's who she is, So yeah.
It's fitting, but then it also, they use Dargo to kind of actually question that mentality and to kind of unpack that a little bit. And it reminded me, and you've compared Dargo to Worf a couple of times. It reminded me of a Worf episode on Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Worf is struck with a spinal cord injury and just decides to kill himself. You know,
Oh, wow.
and he says, you know, I can't go on. I can't be a warrior. So what's the point?
That'd bug me.
Yeah, and in that episode also they tore that argument apart in a very like strong is fighting kind of a way, you know, and Dargo having that initial like, yeah, give her an honorable death, but also wait, isn't love honorable too?
Yeah,
I think it's also it's a trait that we see a lot in the real world, and I think my aversion comes from the fact that I'm the total opposite of that. I'm all about community and supporting each other. No one's alone. So when someone's like, no, leave me alone, I'm fine, I'm tough, I can take care of myself, it's like, shut up. It just annoys me.
It's a deeply ableist sort of idea to be like, I can't show weakness, I can't show that I need help, and then the whole I'm injured so I have to die is just it's so ableist, and like it has shades of eugenics even, and
goodness, yes. At the same time, like I definitely see that when I see these people being like, no, I will go off alone. To me, what I see is, and again, this might be my personal, thing, is running away from vulnerability. Right. Needing people is vulnerable. Needing someone to be there for you is vulnerable. And so while I absolutely 100% agree with the ableism and the hint of eugenics, which hurts when you hear it because it's true, in Aeryn, what I see is her refusal to be vulnerable, her refusal to need anybody, which I think is something that they are systematically breaking down within her character. So because of that, I absolutely see where you're coming from, Jack, and why that would, be an irritating trope to hit. But again, like with Worf and with all this, when they crack it apart, when it's not rubber stamped by the text, I have a lot more patience for it.
Yep.
And this is not even close to being the most egregious example of it. Like it's a slight annoyance here, but because it fits and it's done in a way that is true to the character, I'm okay with it, but it's just something just in media in general that just kind of annoys me.
Absolutely.
Well, we know where she gets it from. It's her peacekeeper training, and we get to go to a peacekeeper base and see what that culture is really like. We know it's fascist. I mean, they are the space police. It's fascist. So this is the now we come to the section of the story. We arrive at the peacekeeper base, and John is doing her thing, and then John gets challenged, and we meet our old friend. So
Jelena. And once again, we got John doing his best Jean-Luc Picard impression, and I feel like he worked on it. Like he worked on it because it's a little better.
Yes, his English accent was a little bit. No.
Yeah, I once again am just in love with the design of the peacekeepers. And whatever giant ass factory that they keep renting out for this show is really paying dividends. Because like just the hangar and the corridor and even like the design of the bar lounge place where they were and stuff like that, and the design of the quarters where they were lit, everything was just so like it was so smooth and so industrial, and it was engrossing at the same time, and like immersive. That's a better word for it. It was immersive. I felt like, I agree. I felt like the walls were cold. I felt like the air was a little humid. Like I could feel it as I was watching it, and it was just so good.
Yeah, the overall design was amazing. And I love there's something about the peacekeeper aesthetic that is, to me, very inspired by fascism, even like sort of Stalinist communism. Like there's, it's deeply like steeped in that stuff. I don't even know how to put it into words, but whatever they have done there, it gives that vibe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very modern and inspired, I think, a little bit by Bauhaus, perhaps, but very mid-century. Soviet constructionist is definitely in there too. from the art influences they're pulling on. But yeah, it's so good.
Can we talk about Jelena?
Let's talk about Jelena.
Let's talk about Jelena.
We got to talk about Jelena.
Because there's so much about it that I freaking love. I really do. I love how instrumental she is in saving Aeryn's life and getting John out of there. She goes all Mission Impossible, and she's like the hero of this story. She plants the false memory that causes Scorpius to become suspicious of Grace, and all of that. Like it's freaking amazing, but
they did her dirty, man. They did her dirty.
They did. So firstly, she goes all kind of like 14-year-old forlorn girl in love, and she's all like, I can't come with you because you don't love me. I'm like, this is a grown woman. Like, what are you doing? What? Like, I didn't buy that. I didn't buy that. It came across as cringy to me, to be honest, like really, really cringy. And then I also take great issue with her death because it's like, it felt like they were just trying to get her out of the way. So John and Aeryn can hook up. And also, like, maybe I just read it wrong, but as she is dying, like, sure, John kisses her, but he just seems very cold and sort of distant. And I'm like, this girl's dying. At least, like, lie to her. You know, would you like me to lie to you now? Yes. But he just seems. I feel like they were trying to do something that was very emotionally affecting, and it is. But I don't know. There was something off about it. The way John is with her in that moment, I didn't like it.
What is up with the thirst on this show? Like, and it's also really super thirsty as long as you're straight. But at least everything that I've seen, maybe I haven't seen everything yet, so I can't speak to the entire run of the show. But it just seems like if Crichton is around a woman of his age, she is so into him and he's so into her, and he kisses everybody. He is the Captain Kirk of the modern age. He's just making out with everybody that comes across his path. And no matter what the story is, we got to make time for the smooches. And like, there's the whole thing with him and Aeryn, which is deeply, like, I feel like a meaningful kind of attraction. The sex falls where they're constantly being thrown against each other in some kind of sexually prone position because the ships are rocking, right? They
actually had a word for that. They called it proximity alerts. Claudia and Ben found it hilarious that they were constantly having to do this. So
constantly, and make those faces at each other because they're like, well, I really like him, but no, I'm not going to, the whole thing is so weird. And then, so we have like this unbelievable thirst factor that feels like people just lose their minds when there's somebody sexy of opposite sex is what I've seen so far. It just,
Lani, I feel so seen and validated right now. Thank you. Because I've been saying this since the beginning. Yes.
No, it's weird. It's super weird. Here's another weird thing for me that nobody is going to be on my side with, and I'm okay with it. Is it just me? It's just me. I know it's just me. As soon as I wrote it in my notes, I was like, this is absolutely just you. Don't say it out loud, but I'm gonna. Is it just me, or does Moya look like a chocolate drizzled space puff pastry? Is that right? Has anybody?
I never had that thought, but now I'm never going to be able to not see that.
Every time I looked, I was like, that I can get that at the local bakery. I can get a little Moya.
Take a
not
bite.
with whale, but that makes sense.
Yeah. It just, she just looks chocolate drizzled to me, and she has that golden look. It's possible I was hungry when I was watching it. Anyway, I'm gladly going to pass the microphone on to the next person who wishes to speak.
She does look like she's got, flaky, buttery crust and
croissant kind of thing.
Croissant. I was going to say that.
Tasty Moya.
Like I need Paul Hollywood and Mary Berry to walk up to her and like, this is a good bake.
Beautifully moist.
Please always use that voice.
Really?
That's great.
As long as she doesn't have a soggy bottom.
My God.
Can we just have one episode that doesn't devolve into just complete shenanigans? No, wait, no, we can't. No, we can't.
Uncommon.
That's not how this works, Jack. I'm just a guest, and even I know that.
Right. Lani's cracked the formula. So maybe I'll be the outsider on this one. I don't think they did Jelena, the character, dirty.
Mhm.
I think this was an incredibly organic tragedy.
Okay.
That yes was kind of manipulative on the audience because they didn't have to bring Jelena back. Like to me, there was no reason to close out this story.
Mhm.
She was, until this episode, a girl of the week, very much like from way back when John walked into that single mom's home and she was like, hey, she was just another girl of the week, and she was very very well done, very great chemistry girl of the week, but she was a girl of the week, so they didn't have to bring her back, so they brought her back to create a tragedy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it was a very well done tragedy, and it was like I said, entirely organic, and it's anybody, I don't know if y'all have ever had this experience of like right person wrong time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That was John and
Definitely.
Jelena. And so then what if you meet that person again after you've already found your right person at the right time? It's sad, and can be sad.
Yeah.
And so when Jelena
Or you can be Polly.
or you can be Polly, but as Lani pointed out,
It's always
Farscape
an
is not there yet.
No.
When Jelena comes back in John's life at this point, he is creating a deep, meaningful, emotionally intimate connection with Aeryn, and they had sex in fake Australia, and it was great and really well done. And Jelena is right person, wrong time. And so she comes back, and I actually do buy her dewy-eyed schoolgirl reaction, because that was Aeryn's to a certain extent, and that's anytime a peacekeeper has been remotely exposed to like goodwill or compassion or love, it's been like candy. Like they've never tasted candy before.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, man.
That is. I didn't see that Jelena and John had enough time for her to be so in love with him.
I felt that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, Josh, I really love that insight, though, that this is something that peacekeepers do not get. They're not exposed to. And so the first time, it's like a drug that can be overwhelming. And, whereas John, I think, has a little more balance. And I think he liked her. I think that if you, had one episode with somebody and then 3 months later you bump into them and they're like, oh, I love you, that could be a little weird. I can see that. But yeah, but that's actually coming from that peacekeeper where they don't have that. That's not the kind of relationships that they have. I think that's a really interesting insight. It makes it more palatable to me.
It's what makes the tragedy so organic for me.
Okay.
And I really appreciate that she initially had the kind of scorned woman reaction of like, well, he doesn't love me, so I'm not gonna help him. I'm out of here. But then like love wins, and unrequited love wins. Like she knows that this will not be a gesture that wins him over, but she loves him.
Yeah, I think the timing of it is what throws me off, though. It's like, okay, have this conversation when people aren't trying to kill you, girl. Get on the ship, because she wasn't like, oh, screw him, he doesn't love me, I'm going to leave him. She was like, he doesn't love me, therefore I'm going to just die here.
Yeah.
And
that feels like a disservice to the character.
I think it does. It makes her look silly.
I think we needed more like of a, she felt she could actually take her chances, or, people didn't know about her or something. Because it did for me as well. It felt a bit like, it felt a bit telenovela to be like, do you love John? Aeryn, John, do you love Aeryn? It felt a bit telenovela, and then out of nowhere, she pops up without seeing any of her thought process. I love her. I love this story, but it needed a little more time in the oven.
Yeah. Like I was actually cringing, like it said several points, because I'm like, you're acting like a 14-year-old. Like, what are you like? This is weird. I don't know. But Josh, no, I really like that observation. That definitely makes it more palatable for me, as Lani said.
So that's about the halfway point of our discussion. Tune in next time to hear everyone's thoughts on Stark and Scorpius, and of course, the comfy chair. Our guest, Lani Dian Rich, can be found at chipperishmedia.com, where she's been doing podcasts. Currently, she's doing a podcast called Endless on Neil Gaiman's Sandman. I can actually do a British accent, but it's much softer. It's not the one John has. It is my mother's accent. That is the accent that I can do. Anyway,